Arminta, or Minty, was born around 1820. We don't exactly know because the records aren't very clear. But Minty was born into a life of slavery. And by the time she was 5 or 6 years old, she was daily working as a young child slave, taking care of the owner's children. In her personal account, or personal biography, she records that many times during this age of her life that she was regularly beaten for not performing or letting the children or the babies wake up. And for this, she was carried permanent scars all the days of her life. Just a few years later, while a slave was running off the particular plantation that she was on, a slave master had thrown a 2-pound shackle at the escaping slave, but hit Minty on the head. For 2.5 days, she laid in a coma. She eventually awoke, and they put her back in the field, but things never were quite the same. In fact, her entire life, she suffered from what we would know as grand mal seizures and had great bouts of narcolepsy that she had to struggle and overcome. By the time she was about 32, she finally escaped from her plantation. She became a Christian during this time, a devout Christian, and she decided to join the Underground Railroad. And they would call people that would go from free areas into slave areas and to bring those people back out as conductors in the Underground Railway system for freeing slaves. Minty was known as the best there was. At least 13 different mission trips, she would go into slave territories and extract slaves. The records say somewhere between 55 and 70 people she personally escorted and got out of slavery. In fact, Minty, being a child of 4 brothers and 4 sisters, over the course of that Underground Railroad, she went and extracted not only her mother and father, but all 4 of her brothers, her living sisters, their spouses, and their family. Reminds you a little bit of the big family of Joseph, and also like Joseph, she took all of her freed family and bought them land and settled in Auburn, New York. So not only did she rescue them, she set them up on pieces of property in which they were to prosper and to multiply, just as Joseph did with his brothers. When the Civil War broke out in 1860, she joined the Army and became both a nurse, a scout, and a spy for the Union Army. Minty is the only woman to ever lead an armed militia raid in South Carolina in which 800 slaves were released in those missions. Minty cared for the poor, the destitute. Those with dysentery and smallpox had broken out in the South, and as a nurse, she took care of those. And the glory of God had shone so brightly upon her that she never got sick, was never infected. People would look at her and say that God must truly rest upon you in His favor. Minty spent the rest of her life helping ex-slaves come out of slavery and adjust to the realities of free society. She lived to almost 100 years of age. She lived her entire life from that on a military pension and was buried with military, semi-military honors up in a soldier's graveyard in Auburn, New York. I don't think of doing this for more than 3 years every single week as we present these historical, many times in many ways Christian figures, that I've ever known a braver woman in my life. He said that her meager rations were so great that she had to make money on the side from her military rations. And so Minty used to make her own brand of root beer. And I've got some root beer. It's not hers, but I think that anytime I take a root beer, I will think of Arminta, Minty, Harriet Tubman, for the rest of my life. Oh, how many people have ever gone to a elementary school named Harriet Tubman? But yet, how many really know of the courageous life that Armenta Harriet Tubman lived in this life? What a brave and inspirational woman. And we so thank you when you hear these stories that you're compelled and we're compelled as God gives us examples of being courageous and brave during times of great trouble. We thank you again for your generous giving. And for those that use our PushPay application, you can simply text 77977 and in the message section, just put EN City Church. Just follow the prompt and it'll take you right to where you need to be to continue to give. We thank you that those that use our website, for those that continually send in checks every single week to keep and maintain this great facility, as well as all the staff and the efforts that we have like Summer Splash within our church. God bless you as you give today in this holy moment of worship. And I would encourage you to study the life of Harriet Tubman during this next week. There are many documentaries, and there's actually a brand new movie made about her life and many of the extraordinary things in life that she did. We are soon too quick to forget these heroes, and heroes they are to not only our faith, but to our courage. God bless you as you give today.